Hi, I'm attorney Tammy Saltzman, and you are watching Divorce Connection Network. Welcome to our show. Today, I am here with Carolann Mazza. She is a family law attorney, but she has a niche, and it's a non-litigious niche. So she practices family law in a non-litigious way, and she handles all areas of family law without going to court. She's licensed in Texas and in Florida. She's been practicing family law for 17 years, and I have met Carolann through the collaborative process that we heard Bob Merlin talk about a couple of weeks ago. So Carolann and I have a lot in common and a lot of the same philosophies. So welcome to the show.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
You're welcome. It's really good to see you and to be with you today. I give you a lot of credit because you really do promote yourself as a non-litigious lawyer. Mm-hmm. And so, I promote myself as someone who likes to promote non-litigious divorces, but if you need me to go to court, I will. And I try to avoid it to keep the expenses down for the client. Some clients feel like, well, she's not a shark. She's not one of those that really wants to box it out.
Right.
So those clients end up with other people.
Yeah.
And that's okay, right?
Yes, of course.
So tell me about your practice, the kinds of people that find you, and how we were talking about philosophies. So why don't you tell the audience a little bit about that?
Yes. Well, thank you, and thank you for the compliment. The interesting thing about family conflict, typically divorce, child issues, etc., is that it's a little bit legal and a lot emotional. And what happens is people have this idea that they're going to go into a court system and they're going to get their feelings of anger, betrayal, mistrust, very common feelings, sadness. I think the biggest one is fear. And they're going to get those emotions resolved in a courtroom. Sadly, the courtroom is not that place. The courtroom is specifically designed to leave the emotional aspect out of it. We've all heard of no-fault divorces, correct?
I'd love to interrupt you briefly because I think a lot of our audience might have a warped view of what happens in court due to these reality shows that are now on TV called Divorce Court or Judge Judy type of shows where it's very much a Jerry Springer type atmosphere. And that's not what happens here in South Florida. I can't speak to what happens in the rest of the country, but I know that when I start talking in court to a judge about, well, the husband did this, the judge just
shuts it down.
Talk to me about the facts.
Exactly.
And it's not a place to get revenge. It's not a place to get your emotions resolved. That's more of a therapeutic setting. Wouldn't you agree?
Absolutely. And the shows that you mentioned, Judge Judy, for example, is very interactive. The plaintiff and the defendant actually talk to the judge. In family court, that might happen a bit. Generally, what happens, though, is the couple, the person who's on the stand, is being interviewed or questioned, really, not interviewed, questioned by either their lawyer or the other lawyer. And there are very limited parameters about what is allowed in court. So if the evidentiary rules are not met, the information doesn't get in. And in layman's terms, that means that you're not going to get to tell the judge why your ex-husband did so-and-so and, you sacrificed all of this, and why your wife is, something that is untrustworthy or etc. The judge wants to hear the facts.
Just the facts and the case law, right?
And the case law.
And the Florida statutes that match your specific case pattern. And quite often the judge will rule and you have very little say in the matter unless you use a non-litigious attorney who's going to help you work through the issues without the judge ordering something. You get to choose.
Absolutely. I find that once a client comes to meet with me and we start talking about what it is they really want to accomplish, they become a lot more comfortable, because the more information that they have and the more that they're educated, and that's my job to educate them, the more they understand that they can overcome the fear of the unknown, that they can have a lot more say in what's going to happen to their post-divorce family, for example. And more information and more knowledge is power. And in the processes that I promote, for example, collaborative divorce, mediation, etc., what I like to call consensual dispute resolution methods, because the couple is actually voluntarily engaging in this process, these processes, to work together to resolve their issues. And at the end of the day, they're the experts on their family. The judge isn't the expert. The judge has never met the family. The judge will never meet your kids, except in very rare situations. And the judge is
only with permission.
And only with permission. And the judge is not going to get to know you and or your spouse. So the real experts are you and your spouse. And once you're able to overcome some of those fears, those emotions, and really start utilizing the information you have available, you're able to come to a better agreement that works for your particular family.
So, as I mentioned, we were talking about this before going on air about philosophies. Some people come in, they're so angry, and they just want to, pardon me, but screw their spouse. Some couples come in and they bring you an agreement, and they say, we really have agreed to mostly everything. We just need someone to put it in legal ways.
Yes.
So there's all different types of philosophies that people have. Some people are, I don't know, let me call my mother. Some people are like, this is what I want, and this is how I want it done, and I'm not going to compromise at all. So we meet lots of different personalities.
Absolutely.
And people who have different philosophies about how it's going to happen.
Yes,
right?
That's true.
I always find that when a client begins the litigious process of, let's file a motion, I sit down with them and explain to them, well, let me tell you what that's going to cost you.
Sure, yeah.
Let's, and if you want me to do it, I will. So we've got to prepare the motion. We've got to do a little legal research prior and pull the case law and make sure the case law matches our issue.
Yeah.
We need to review the motion, usually get the client to review the motion. Sometimes we have them sign the motion, right? Because you can go in and tell a lawyer, well, my husband did this, this, and this. We don't know.
Right.
So we get them to sign it as an affidavit that they're saying that happened.
That it's true, right.
So we find all different types. So the kinds of clients that would use a non-litigious lawyer like yourself would be a client that really wants to have more control.
Absolutely.
Make their own decisions. Compromise as much as possible.
Yes.
And the most important thing, save money.
Save money, absolutely.
Right? So when you are non-litigious, instead of sending my kids to camp, they're sending their kids to camp, right?
That's correct.
I've said it before.
Yes.
So I love that whole philosophy, and I love being able to help people. I also feel that if people use the non-litigious practice, that at the end, they like lawyers more. They're not as angry at the court system.
Yes.
They're not feeling like I didn't get justice.
Yes.
They're not as angry at the process and the lawyers as they would be had they gone through the litigation process and spent $100,000.
Absolutely. And I think something that the public might want to realize is that when you are involved in this kind of trauma, and let's face it, the breakdown of a family is traumatic. You want to take action. So the first thing you might do is go to a lawyer, and the lawyer says, okay, we're going to file the lawsuit, bum, bum, bum. And then you sit and wait. You wait for your spouse to be served, and there's a certain time frame that the law says that they have to file an answer, and then there's documentation that goes back and forth between the lawyers, and you're not seeing any of that, except maybe you're getting copies of what your lawyer is filing or what the other side has filed and served on your lawyer in the mail. So it can be a very unsatisfying situation because you're not involved. And it sounds very weird. You're not actively involved in a situation that is so intimate. It's making decisions for your own family, and I can't imagine something more intimate and more private. Whereas in the consensual dispute resolution methods like collaborative law, for example, the couple meets with their attorney, and we all get together and we decide actively, with most input from the couple themselves, what are the important issues, what are the goals, how do we want our children to be raised, how do we want our marital nest egg to be divided and preserved, because like Tammy says, the lawyers are often the ones who get a big part of that marital nest egg. And so when you're wanting to screw your spouse, you're in effect screwing yourself and your kids.
Absolutely. It's always better to give your spouse the money than the lawyer the money. I totally agree. Would you agree that if one of our listeners wants to find a non-litigious attorney, using the collaborative divorce lists would be a good place for them to start?
Yes.
Because even if they don't utilize the collaborative process, which by the way costs nothing extra to use, but both parties need to agree, even if we don't agree, that would be a good place for them to find someone that uses non-litigious methods, right?
Yes, absolutely. There are 3 organizations in South Florida. There's the South Palm Beach County Collaborative Law Group. There's the Collaborative Family Law Professionals of South Florida, which is more of a Broward-based group. And then there's the Collaborative Family Law Institute in Miami-Dade County. Any of those organizations will give you a list of attorneys who, number one, are specially trained in collaborative law, which Bob Merlin probably talked to you about the other day, and also have more of a settlement-oriented approach to helping their clients resolve their family conflict.
That's great. So we've talked a lot about collaborative. You know that I promote collaborative. You can go on divorceconnectionnetwork.com, go to resources, click on collaborative, and every single organization in South Florida will be listed there for you to click on it, go to members, and there you're going to find lawyers that like to be non-litigious. So if they want to reach you,
yes,
and I know you work in South Fort Lauderdale, how does our audience find you, Carolann?
Well, you can go onto my website, which is www.collaborativenow.com, or you can call my office at 954-527-4604.
Thank you so much for joining us today. It was a pleasure to have you.
Thank you. It was really great to be here.
We look forward to seeing you next time. Thanks for joining us.